Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting Beat the Clock TV review, long form edition. I am your host, Mikey.
And I, of course, am the inimitable JVL, and we are here as part of the Biconics Review of Honor, or...
Bro.
Mikey, as we know, before we start anything else, we're going over Ring of Honor. We got to adhere to the Code of Honor.
Yes.
I can feel you in my own home. All right, so we've adhered to the code. It's time to go over what happened on this week's ROH, which was for it was 6/15, so June 15th, episode 16 in their run on Honor Club, and we excitedly watched this late into the night last night.
I know. I'm just like trying to catch. Well, late last night for JVL here. For me, I watched it this morning because as I tuned in to watch it last night, somebody was already in the middle of watching it, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna watch it in the morning because I don't know how this is working. If I start from the beginning, is it gonna mess it up?
We don't know that, but we can always check that from now on or find another way to watch it. But yes, I was watching it until about 2 in the morning last night, then taking notes, sitting in my bed, just going over stuff as my partner, who was in the other rooms.
And of course, I was watching it this morning with the bowl of cereal. It was a great time.
Ooh. But it was a jam-packed show, Mikey. There were quite a few different matches on this. One thing I've noticed about ROH going forward since I've been watching has been they have the amount of matches that you probably should have on a 3-hour Raw crammed into 2 hours, and the work rate is insane.
Yes. I totally agree right there. I think that... Now, I will say, compared to the last couple of weeks, 11 is a good number. Compared to, what was it, last week's there was like 19 or something. It was way too much.
Something like that, with the same 3 promos and also the way the spacing was. So definitely, this was a good number. It didn't feel as jam-packed or crammed. It didn't feel like I was trying to dig my way through an entire match card. And it definitely flowed better than the other weeks I've seen, even with the weirdly inserted match from a previous Dynamite taping in the middle of the show.
Yeah, I was like, huh? What is... Okay, alright. Honestly, we'll get to it. So, let's just...
So do we want to start at the beginning?
Yeah, let's just start at the top. We open up this week's episode of Ring of Honor with a championship match between Ring of Honor TV champion Samoa Joseph, Mimosa Joe, whatever you want to call him, versus Matt Sydal. This was a strong opening.
It's time to fly. It was built off of last week's promo after Matt Sydal's match, calling out Samoa Joe, saying, I need a shot at this title, and going to their backstory of that they had faced each other when Matt was much younger in Impact, and then I believe like around the Indies. So this was the full circle, time to take it down, and they gave it the time to breathe. Like, this was amazingly well done and put together. Almost pay-per-view level match, which has been now for AEW, who owns ROH, 2 shows in a row with a pay-per-view level championship-ish match right off the bat.
And see, that's just how I feel if you're going to do championship matches on, I guess, quote-unquote, the TV shows instead of saving them for the pay-per-views. This is the formula of how you do it. I'm the personal belief that championships should be defended from time to time during the weekly shows if it makes sense. You don't always need to save it for the pay-per-views. Honestly, this match had everything between heavy strikes to high kicks. Sydal's dive off of the top to the outside was probably the highlight reel moment for me.
The outside Meteora was insane. His knees must be broken. And then, of course, I love, as we get to the end, in most Samoa Joe matches, there's a time where he just clicks and goes, no, I need to go home. I got to go play some video games in my basement somewhere. So he just said, no, screw this, picked him up and did the muscle buster. 1, 2, 3, down. But the ending, you think Samoa Joe, as the heel, he's just going to walk out, leave it alone. Full sign of respect. A little bit between them, and he vacates to give Sydal that little bit of, give you your flowers, you did a great job.
Yeah, I think Samoa Joe, he's leaning more towards heel-ish, but I think Joe has always been that wrestler to be more of in between. Like, he's not necessarily full face or full heel, but he's just, I know I'm good, but you know what? That was a great match.
It was, and it was a great way to start the night off. Got everyone engaged, went right in and just turned that gear. So, first match, had me hooked. How about you?
Honestly, this match was a great start. It was very smart of them to put this championship match first because it got I want to say that it sets the mood right for the rest of the card, but we have peaks and valleys in which we'll get into a little bit, but this is a strong start. And I love seeing championships defended on TV weekly instead of pay-per-views, so both men are incredible. It's so good.
I give this match on my rating scale about a 7 out of 10. Pretty darn good match.
We also got to figure out how we're rating these, because I rate mine out of 5. It makes it easier for
we'll
me.
Do multiple. I can go to 5 or anything. If you want to do 5, it was 3.5 out of 5.
That I gave it 3.5 as well. I think this was a strong opening. Both Seidel and Joe are phenomenal wrestlers. They've been in this business for a long time, and they're able to still pull off things that no normal human being should be able to do.
Keep it new for all of us that may not have seen their older matches, but also if you have, this is a whole new encounter.
Oh, for sure. Then we
move on to one of your favorite wrestlers in all of wrestling.
I just like to look at him.
I know you do. Especially now that he's changed gimmicks and gotten away from the QT Marshall band.
I still have feelings, because on the one hand, I'm like, that's great. On the second hand, I'm like, I need to see how this develops.
Understandable. But it was Nick Comoroto versus Damus. I believe they said
Daimos.
I forget what group he's part of it too, but he was accompanied to the ring by Teal Piper, the daughter of Roddy Piper, for this match as well.
Which we'll talk about her match later. But honestly, this match is probably what I expected. You have powerhouses just hitting hard, battling hard. This match I was surprised of how much time they actually gave this match. Because usually big powerhouse matches don't usually go that long. So I was surprised that they gave this thing time.
This is ROH though, so usually when I've seen big hoss matches in Ring of Honor, they're also at least decent workers or working that way to it. So like Nick Comoroto, I've seen from AEW on, has really worked to become better technically in the ring, because it wasn't just him being the giant monster getting hit. And it seems like Damus as well is a good indie worker, knew how to sell well enough, and could be flexible enough to help out with a greener wrestler like Comoroto taking this on. At the same time, Mikey, is he trying to be Adam Rose, like Lollipop Hat, that type of stuff? Are we going to get the Comoroto buds or someone following him out at some point?
I have no idea. And here's the thing, like, I would be down for that, but I need his character, this new version of Nick, to be fleshed out a little bit more. Because right now, but
I hear you though. He needs to work a few more matches against different opponents, show that he can actually carry it himself and not be as tied to his opponent as he was in this one. It definitely seemed like this was a 50-50 split of who's calling this, who's making it on the fly. So Comorato's got a way to go, but he definitely showed up tonight and he wasn't terrible. I gave it about a 2.5 out of 5.
I gave this one a solid 2 out of 5. Not to say that it was bad, but it was just like, okay, it's what I expected. But definitely good things for Comoroto, and I'm hoping to see more of him. I just need to be
Are you now?
Here's the thing. I want him to develop more of his individual character and continue to distance himself away from the factory and all that. And I want to see what he's able to do on his own. And hopefully once he gets that character down, then you can start to push him towards maybe having some sort of television championship match, but that's in the far distant future.
That's down the road, yeah. Honestly, that would be a better one to set him up against a smaller opponent that has a television championship at the time. Give him that like big weight. Might be a lot more. Even against like a Matt Sydal or something else would be very interesting. But I just thought of this, and ROH, you can take this if you want. It's not the Rosebuds, but he's like Adam Rose. It's Nick and the Knickknacks. And it keeps him on a shelf.
Oh my god, that'd be hilarious.
Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be good?
See,
oh, man.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I would be here for it. Speaking of being here for it, this next match, you have Tracy Williams and Rhett Titus versus the Iron Savages. Hot Sauce?
Oh, my God, Hot Sauce. Hot Sauce. Was Hot Sauce in this one? Yeah, that's right.
Hot Sauce is...
I forgot about that.
Yeah, because Tracy and Rhett have been a staple in the ROH tag team division for a long time. They are tag team vets, and I know that when Ring of Honor was brought back, they were a staple of the first couple of episodes and for the beginning of this, and I love seeing them always come back. Honestly, this was a good short match that had some nice tag team action, some big hits from both sides, and just color me intrigued. I'm interested to see more of Iron Savages, who picked up the win in this match.
Can I also say for that, their entrance was very like trying to reminisce about like almost like the New Age Outlaws, which was very strange having their mouthpiece. I also weirdly thought they were Bear Country for a second because they also look very similar to Bear Country, but definitely aren't, I don't believe.
No. Speaking of which, I'm like, whatever happened to them? I don't see them anywhere anymore.
We'll have to check into that. If folks in the comments, if you know what happened to Bear Country, we are looking for a bunch of bears. But the one thing that popped me in this entire match was seeing the smaller of the two of Iron Savages get one of the, I think it was Hot Sauce, up in the Fire Thunder or Rikishi Driver and do it down onto the other prone opponent. So double hitting them, throwing them off, and oh, that poor guy, just his chest caved in from having a giant man do a Rikishi Driver on his face.
I love when wrestlers find a way to surprise me. I was like, okay, I've seen a lot of these moves, a lot of them tend to repeat themselves from time to time, but then find innovative ways to put a fresh new coat of paint on it. And I'm like, it hurt me watching it at that point. I was entertained, but I was clutching my chest and like, oh.
Exactly. Really fun match, and like you said, pretty not standard tag team, but definitely gave it a little bit of flavor. Was definitely a good kind of squash-ish to see Iron Savages get that knock up there. I'd give it a solid 3 out of 5.
I give it a solid 3 out of 5 as well. I thought this was a good match. It was short and to the point, with both teams in this match being able to go back and forth on putting on a fun show, not only for the audience that was there live, but also for us watching at home. And I think that's what tag team action needs to be. It should be great wrestling, but it should also be a lot of fun depending on who you have.
Exactly.
This next match, I feel so bad.
I was excited for this match before it started.
Me too.
Because I know that Teal Piper, daughter of Roddy, has been getting a lot of buzz on the indies, coming up here. Oh, she gets her shot. She's on TV, and she's going to be facing off against Diamante, who, while has not probably put it all together in terms of character and work rate and everything else, definitely is a solid hand, has been good on AEW Dark Elevation before they both went away. So this was hopefully going to be something a little bit more interesting, and it wasn't.
So I want to preface by saying that sometimes things aren't always going to work out in matches because it's part of the profession. But you could tell that throughout this match that the timing was off between Teal and Diamante, and you could see that Diamante started to grow increasingly frustrated as the match began to continue on. And I feel so bad. Teal's timing was off with a lot of things, and I feel bad for both women because this was Teal's, I don't want to say first, but it was like one of the big times. So I was like, all right, you're on Ring of Honor, you're going off against a pretty solid wrestler in Diamante, and it just didn't click. And I feel so bad, and it sucks because Diamante has, for me, following her career, Diamante has been trying to get herself to be over as a single star since her falling out with Ivelisse in that tag team that they had, which also sucked, by the way. But
as I said, I am a big proponent of women's wrestling. I feel that a lot of it's a lot better than the men's itself. This definitely was the two performers were not comfortable with each other and were not skilled enough to work past it or to change things on the fly. You look at, and this is going to AEW Dynamite, you look at MJF versus Adam Cole. There were a couple of mistiming things in that match as well, but they knew how to sell it to look like it was intentional. These two were never on the same page to begin with. It was almost as if, and I'm not putting blame on this because it could be either one, but it seems, and Diamante has been known for having this happen in her matches where she goes rogue and just wants to do what she wants to do. As the heel, she's allowed to call the match sometimes, and when you don't have someone that's been working TV a lot, they're still an indie person or anything else, it's really tough to get that across. And so I think she's got to work on playing well with others, which again comes back to her tag team with Ivelisse as well. She's got to work well with playing well with others in the ring so that she can overcome those hurdles, because she's an amazing worker and has an amazing skill set that when put together will be something that will carry her very far.
Exactly. I give this match a little bit of grace. I was just like, okay, it didn't work out this time. I know both women are still working on their craft, but yeah, it was very visible that both women didn't have good chemistry. Teal's timing was not clicking with Diamante. Diamante was growing frustrated. I gave this and this is not a reflection on the women as actual wrestlers, but just as an entire match, I gave this match half a star because I was like, it just did not work for me. It didn't click with me, and I felt so bad.
I ended up giving it 1 star just to be generous at that point, but also it's not for anything else. I'm judging all these matches equally with each other, depending on, it doesn't matter gender or that type of thing for what people are doing. But yeah, there were sparks of goodness there. There were sparks of interest, but this should have been workshopped a bit more.
It definitely needed. I don't want to say the next match to me didn't have as many problems, except for me personally, it went on a little bit too long than it needed to be. But next up, Tony Nese versus the Ultimate Squash Master Serpentico.
Was it Serpentico? Are we sure?
Oh my gosh.
This could be something put together that's not truly Serpentico. But to preface this, Mikey, also, there was Tony Nese's actually really decent heel promo right before this. I'm not a huge proponent of the ROH promos. They're shot fine, but you can tell they're still working on their stuff. And it's, again, ROH is not built around character work as much a lot of the times. It's work rate. It's a super indie. But Tony Nese coming out and not just going after the fans, going after his opponents as being unathletic and everything else, and like taking that kind of goofy wrestling road of, I'm going to show you up, we're going to do an exercise clinic before we do this so I can get my reps in. And Daivari is back there using a resistance band to get his pecs looking good. It's a weird way to set up move.
What a weird faction that all ended up being, because that's all the varsity athletes. It's Tony Nese, Ari Daivari, and you also have Josh Woods too, part of that faction. It's so weird. It works, but anyways, that's beside the point.
And I love that Serpentico makes me like cheer for him as much as possible. Isn't he? I know he's going to get his ass whipped, but honestly, just seeing him work well, and he can take a lot. Those knees from Nese in the corner to end the match were some really brutal ones. And I'm thinking to myself the whole time, like, I'm glad he's wearing that mask because it's taking the brunt of the knee to the nose, because that was right across the bridge.
That was, I felt that in my spirit. I was like, let's not get hurt, y'all. We need some of you guys for later.
But it was quick paced, it was well timed, a little too long, as you were right. Good ending. And then the leaving memory for me on this match is Daivari getting in afterwards, who's like pushing Serpentico out of the ring, but he's doing like lunges and he's doing like a bunch of other exercise moves, and I'm like sitting there going, Daivari, you're such a veteran and you're made to do this goofy crap and you are selling the hell out of it. I love you so much. That's perfect.
Exactly. I gave this match 2 stars only because I knew Serpentico was going to get his butt whooped. He's going to get that ass beat. But
whereas I gave it a 2. I gave it 2.5.
Okay.
I like the storyline just a bit.
I'm like, Serpentico, I know you're not going to win, but damn it, you made me want to cheer for you so hard.
I will every time.
Yes. Shout out to Serpentico. Bro. You're awesome. Bro. All right. So, see, we had a second women's match. Go figure.
Tony Khan can only book multiple women's matches on ROH. You got this talent there. Come on, Tony. But at the same time, for 2 relatively unknown women on the roster, especially this being the debut of Notorious Mimi, who used to be Sloan something in NXT, but I can't remember what the name was. She was there for a while. It was I felt that it definitely introduced both really well. They had chemistry. They worked pretty well, and there was a lot of stuff. Mimi's selling was ridiculous.
It was so great. It was so great. And of course, when I saw this match on the card, I was just like, okay. I was like, this is Mimi's debut. She's not going to win because Miranda is starting to rack up the wins to establish her as a staple in ROH. But man, this match was a lot of fun.
We also knew because Mimi got the jobber entrance.
Yep.
But she held her own. Again, their strikes were brutal in this match. Like the way Mimi sold, the way both went around, and like the hit across in the corner as well, which is overused in a lot of places. But then the trash talking to the camera really sold everything else. This is what Teal and Diamante could have been had they taken the time to work it. And I honestly wonder, switching partners, if Diamante had taken on Mimi, because she's done that in AEW Dark, would that have worked better?
That is an interesting question. Yeah, because I always wonder too, especially if some of these wrestlers have worked with each other previously, you start to get a feel about how you work in the ring together and also the chemistry you have. Honestly, just as a booking hat, if they continue to showcase Miranda, I would be down to see Diamante versus Miranda at some point, because I think that would be a fun match.
I could see Miranda going up against Kiera Hogan right now if she wasn't in the program with Heath. Those two going at each other would be really hard hitting and interesting, because you got the brutal bruiser style that Miranda has versus Kiera's kind of like hybrid bruiser luchador, which is really fun.
Awesome. We'll get into Kiera a little bit, and we know. I mean, we'll talk about it later, but we won't have to worry too long about Kiera being in a program with Athena for too long, because
oh, it's going to end very bloody. But for this match, at least, I gave this a 2.5 out of 5.
I gave this a 2.5 as well. I used the term loosely, for an enhancement talent match, because Mimi got the jobber entrance. I still think it was a good match. I think it showcased Mimi. I'm very interested to see more of her, but Miranda, I've been slowly becoming a fan of hers, and I'm wanting to see more from her. So I'm gonna keep my eye on both of them.
It'll be intriguing to see where they both go. I want to see more of what they can do. So that's the biggest hallmark we can get there. Very good then. Oh, and then our
boys.
Let
me just preface by saying this. So I introduced my friend who watches wrestling with me, right? And so I had a little bit of history with Ring of Honor, and when it started to come back again, I was just like, Dalton Castle is the best thing. He's, what do you mean? I'm like, just watch the entrance. I remember showing him the entrance. He was crying of laughter and wouldn't stop for 10 minutes straight. He's like, this is the best thing on the planet. I'm like, Dalton Castle is the best thing on the planet. That man is... And the boys are the best things to ever happen in professional wrestling.
It's wrestling personified, mixed with hard-hitting ability. He's basically a buffer and kind of the opposite side of Orange Cassidy.
I love Dalton's entrance all the time when he gets up to the camera.
He had 4 boys this time.
I know.
4 boys.
Which is usually only saved for the pay-per-views when he has that many. But I love Dalton Castle's entrance coming up to the camera and then always doing inside the ring. The wings is the best thing. And then, yeah, his jumpsuit's always fabulous. And then the Dalton and the boys are taking on, okay, you talk about like weird thrown together tag teams, right? Like on paper, this should work when you have the Righteous and Stu Grayson of the Dark Order still. We haven't officially severed. No? Okay.
From what they were saying on commentary last night, like he has all but in name said he has stepped away, but they're not sure. He could. It's a very forced thing that could work interestingly, but it also, even before Stu Grayson was added, I was wondering how the Righteous were working, because it seems lately they've been off kilter.
That promo last week, oh God.
Pick one person, have them speak. That's all we need.
To me, it should, and this is not a knock on everybody else, but I know you should just let Vincent be the mouthpiece, in my opinion, because I think I don't want to say spooky, but Cult Leader, he is that incarnate. I think the way that he speaks, his mannerisms definitely works for that. And then I want to like this feud between the Righteous and Stu versus the Dark Order. I want to like it. The problem I'm having with this, and then we'll get into the match, from a storytelling perspective, it makes sense in some areas, but I have more questions than I do answers half the time. And not the good questions. I'm like, did y'all practice this? Who wrote this script? What is happening?
And for me, after the promo last time, because I wasn't as familiar with the Righteous except for the pop-ups where people thought they were going to be Uncle Howdy and a couple other things, was you've got like Spooky Cult Leader, you've got Brother Love together as a team who both want to speak that way, but they're just similar enough that they're discordant. And when they speak, they don't seem like they're a good team. And then there's Stu Grayson, who, God's love him, that he has like the thick accent. He's trying to do that stuff. He's tough. Whereas he didn't need to be the mouthpiece with Evil Uno because Uno could speak. So it's a team. And then not to fast forward through the match, but then you look at their final finisher as a triple team, and it was ill-timed, not working well. I think it looked like Dutch had hurt himself somewhere in there. It seems like they needed a few more like weeks to incubate as a unit.
And I think they should have, And I feel like squash matches tend to work, especially if you're trying to get people to work together, newly formed people to work together as a tag team, or in this case, the trios. Because on paper, it has everything that I like in my wrestling characters and wrestling style. It's just not. It's not bad, but it's okay. They need a little more time. But yeah, now outside of that, I thought the match itself was. I actually enjoyed it, but maybe it's because I'm biased because Dalton and the boys always make me smile when they wrestle, just how ridiculous they are.
And the psychology wasn't bad either. Like having the Righteous take out Dalton Castle early, get him off the apron, on the floor, through whatever, and focus on the boys was what you needed to do. And like really taking them out backwards and forwards. But the Dalton hot tag was really good where he kind of went nuts. The dives to the outside where I think he almost literally clipped his neck when he was going under the bottom rope for a baseball dive almost. It was just, that was scary. And then Dutch no sold it, which is even funnier. Overall, like it could have been a better match. I don't know if they could have done anything on the night.
Overall, I think the match was decent enough as it was. I will say that the ending was a little bit weird with the triple team flipping into some sort of modified Razor's Edge. It was weird. It was
also off kilter a lot too. There was a little bit like dip on the side. Like they just didn't time it right, and I don't think they've done it enough in practice to be able to have that pulled off. And that will take time. Grayson hasn't worked with the Righteous for very long. It's getting them integrated. And I don't think it's a choice storyline-wise to have him not as well tuned in. I feel like they're actually trying to make it the other way around, where they're trying to pull a switcheroo if there's going to be like the insider, which is Stu Grayson, killing the Righteous from the inside. It's just not working as well as they think it is.
I gave this match 2.5 stars. I wanted to give it 3, but I had to be objective, and the 3 most of it would have been because I love Dalton Castle. Anytime Dalton Castle and the boys wrestle, which I feel like isn't a lot, get on that Ring of Honor. But I get it. You know?
Exactly.
And I think it was a solid. It was fun, but I want more from this story. I need more from this story, and I'm hoping. And eventually, if they're smart, they would book the Righteous with Stu versus Dark Order at Death Before Dishonor in a couple of weeks. So I'm hoping that they build the story up a little bit more, because that match, if it's built correctly and with all the people involved, I think that would be such a phenomenal, fun match.
It literally it has so much potential. It just needs a little more time to work. And on top of that, I gave it a 2, mostly. It just was pieces that just didn't work for me, but Dalton Castle and the boys knocked it up from a 1.5. It could have been a lot better for me, and the promo before was also not the greatest either. And they played the promo from the week before as well, which made no sense because it was terrible to begin with. So I give it a 2, and I was more excited to go into the next match.
Let's talk about this next match, right? So, next match, we have your Ring of Honor Women's Champion Athena taking on one of my personal favorites, Miss Trish Adora. I love Trish.
And before this, remember earlier in the night, we had a special promo with Kiera Hogan. Out comes Athena, dressed like Kiera Hogan, ripping into her in the funniest possible way. And tearing her down, being completely dumb. I love dumb, goofy stuff. Hogan comes in, wrecks her on top before she came out. So Athena was already hurting, jumping into this match.
Which, I like this heel Athena. I think that her shift in being this like over obnoxious, very confident heel has probably been my favorite. And honestly, she's probably done my favorite body of work so far in 2023. And she's been killing it. God, her match at Supercard of Honor was really good. Honestly, this
She's a highlight.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And what I appreciated too is that this was both Trish and Athena had good chemistry, and it was a solid back and forth. Trish is been in Ring of Honor. She's part of the women's. She's a staple in the women's division, and she's only been doing this for 5-7 years now, so she's still new to it. But my God, these women killed it. I loved it.
That's across the board for most of the women's division as well. Like I was realizing from commentary, like these are young folks in the business, whatever age they may be. They're young in their career, but they are definitely getting some of the best training and best work coming into ROH and having that TV ability, whereas you see people that are even in NXT, some of the women there aren't getting trained up as much. They're definitely getting some more promo ability, but it's different style. So this is great to see people that are allowed to grow in what they are and allowed to figure that out. And this was definitely one to showcase that, because Athena worked really well with her, and they had a very hard-hitting match right down to the bell. It just, heel Athena wins in the possible way she always does. And then we cut from that to a brutal table spot.
Again, heel Athena has been best Athena. But this match was awesome. I gave this match, and I might be biased here because I love both women, but I gave this match 3.5 stars because I think this is a solid women's match. I know that Trish keeps proving why she is awesome, not just in Ring of Honor, but if you follow her body of work in the independent scene, she is that girl. I love her. And of course, Athena has been holding it down as Ring of Honor Women's Champion. It's great, and I'm really excited for next week's match, which we'll get into later, but I gave this match 3.5.
And I gave it a 3, but I'm bumping it up a half because of the post-match angle, which added to the whole thing, didn't take away from it. So 3 and then 3.5 once we get to the post-match angle, where Kiera Hogan comes down to wreck Athena apart. Fully like taking things on, getting a table out, like, this is a beatdown. This is how bad the blood feud has gotten. And you think everything's going to work out, everything's going to be great, and turn around. Athena spears her through the table. Hogan is crumpled. It is just a great way to leave it laying. It should have ended the night. I liked the way the night ended. This should have been the final angle.
It really should have, because then it would build into next week proper. But this match was great. Hang on a second.
Oh, can I also say, I also love they got Kiera up and over.
Ooh-hoo.
And then Athena woke up and was like, she's power walking up the damn ramp. I'm still doing this. It's so good.
She's a consummate little shit, and I love her. It's the best way to put it. All right, so let's talk about this next match. Anthony Henry versus Mark Briscoe. Honestly, outside of a couple of matches, this one I really enjoyed. I really did.
There was such great ring psychology going on and character play, because they had set up early like this. They're taking out their frustration on FTR on Mark Briscoe, and Mark Briscoe is just being the good old boy that he is, who takes on anyone, and redneck foo, all that good stuff. You got the best and greatest hits there.
It is so good. I loved it. Anytime Mark Briscoe gets in the ring, I'm always a big fan.
Exactly.
It's not hard to enjoy a Mark Briscoe match, but I also got to give props to Anthony Henry. I think both of them nice back and forth, very solid. Of course, Mark wins with the J Drilla, which is probably
trying it 2 times. He couldn't get it the original time. So
I know.
Up and then down.
Yeah. It is so good, and honestly, all the wins right now, because Lord knows what's about to happen on Rampage tonight.
Yeah, with everything else going on, it's going to be interesting.
Solid match. I gave this match 3 stars just because it was great.
Same. 3 stars as well, and even with the fact of JD Drake not being able to get in to help out his friend because they had to let Briscoe like soak in the crowd. It was interesting and interestingly shot too, but it was very fun.
Not a lot of words to describe. It was a great match. Also, I thought this next one was pretty good too. Daniel Garcia versus the DKC.
Which definitely was recorded at a different time.
Yep.
And that's why they said that Jerry Lynn wasn't there, because he was being the judge on this match and all that stuff. By the way, going earlier on, TK's promos are terrible. Like, he is just not good on camera.
No. He needs a crowd, but TK on camera by himself is always But I can't fault the man, because like he genuinely cares and he loves what he's doing, which I think is very important, because I love his weirdo, goofy self of him hugging wrestlers and everything. It's adorable.
Yeah, it's adorable. But we get on to this match. So we come up here and we have just, I don't know how to even describe going forward with it. Just, I don't know.
I like this match because it was both men, both DKC and Garcia, I think they really showed a lot of good techniques, which is to be expected of Garcia because we know of him to be a good technical wrestler. honestly, I think this is a good back and forth. Of course, Garcia locks in Dragon Slayer to make DKC tap. So,
he's both fighting the ability to be, like, people are chanting, "You're a wrestler." Like, he's definitely, you can see he's fighting that instinct to go to it. There is shades going against the JAS. He's also fully going after Shibata with all the stuff he was doing. So Daniel Garcia is growing as a performer week in, week out. And I think this tenure with the JAS has helped him find his voice outside of his skill.
I agree. And I think this win is important because will be covered next week. But if that match is not the main event on Wednesday, I'm going to cry. But it's probably not. But I hope it steals the show. You have Daniel Garcia and your New Japan Television Champion, Zack Sabre Jr. versus your AEW International Champion, Orange Cassidy, and your Ring of Honor Pure Champion, fucking Shibata. Katsuyori Shibata.
Gotta love it. And I love this also too, having the Pure Rules matches on ROH TV where they are. It's a great way to change up the pace. It's a great way to do a different type of match, and like they explain how the rules work every time you do it, so you see the graphics on the bottom. But I love the different changes, like the 20 count. I love the only certain amount of rope breaks. It really is an interesting, different way to take that isn't like changing the match stipulations like crazily. We're working within the confines of a regular match and giving you limitations.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited for that freaking match. I'm so excited. Oh, yeah. It's going to be a great time. But I gave this match a solid 3 stars as well. Go ahead.
I gave it a solid 3.5.
I'm just like, I was pleasantly surprised. I always like Daniel Garcia every time he wrestles. So good. So excited for fucking Dynamite. I'm jealous that I don't get to cover it. You and the professor get to cover it, so I'm just going to vicariously live through you two.
And we'll talk about it on the main podcast anyway. So if there's something good, we'll talk about it. That's a match that we brought up.
We are going to probably have some discussion before Forbidden Door 2. And this match is happening at the Go Home before Forbidden Door. I'm so excited for that. All right, so next up, your 4th women's match in this episode of Ring of Honor. You have Sky Blue versus Viva Van. I love Sky Blue. she's coming
off a tough loss to Toni Storm, literally taped different times, but obviously that type of thing. You could see actually that this was taped before they did it. So it was really kind of interesting, but I love Sky Blue and what she's been doing. I love the intensity and she's gained more grit in her game from when she was a jobber to the Stars. And I hadn't noticed until I watched both back to back this week. She changes her finisher the show she's on.
I noticed that too, and I'm like, that's very smart.
She does the Code Blue on AEW shows, and she does the Skyfall, which this one was a little, like, I saw at the end that they were both a little bit tired or hurt because there was a little bit of trepidation doing it, but the Skyfall on ROH, and she is killing it in ROH, and I feel like a match between her and Athena is coming soon. It's gotta be.
I would love to see that. Honestly, I want them to give that match like a good amount of time. I think that's going to be good. We're not done seeing Sky quite yet, because on the premiere episode of Collision, which will be covered by myself and Adolfo and Alice, the 3 of us are going to have a great time with that. But
the true LWO. Yeah.
Yes, the true LWO. I'm so excited. It's gonna be great. But she's teaming up with your New Japan Strong Women's Champion, Willow Nightingale, taking on the Outcasts. It's so excited. I'm so good.
It's gonna be good. I can't wait to watch it on my own and then just send you guys texts about what's going on. So that'll be fun.
Oh, it's gonna be awesome. And then we close out Ring of Honor this week with this match was so good. You have Mogul Embassy versus AR Fox, Darius Martin, and Action Andretti.
Hard hitting match, and surprisingly fast, because I talked to the professor about this because the Mogul Embassy was on Dynamite as well. Brian Cage moves like an ent. He literally moves like an ent from Lord of the Rings, and he's so big that he can't put his arms down. How is that man that fast and that good?
It's ridiculous, and that's a conversation I had with my wrestling friend that we watch. I was like, bro, Brian Cage is built like he's built he's literally built different, as the kids would say. Like, this man he will squish you just by looking at you, but he's so agile, and he's got the hops, and just Brian Cage deserves all the love. And also, outside of the ring, he's a nice person too. He's so good. But AR Fox, yeah, AR, Darius, and Action, like, they have started to slowly become one of my favorite trios right now. And I know they originally got thrown together because Darius and Dante is off, not breaking an ankle on television again. God, that was oof. I was like, how? This anyways,
Andretti in this match, though, it was his match to go with. Like, he was taking the high spots, he was doing power moves. He got Brian Cage up over his head in a fireman's carry. Like, telling you, like, for smaller guys, their ups and their strength are ridiculous. I honestly would love to see if they brought Pac back in his Death Triangle. You get the Lucha Bros and Pac versus those three in a match in a steel cage. It would blow the roof off the place.
Give it to me right now. Action is definitely one of the rising stars right now, both in Ring of Honor and in AEW, and just the whole Tony Khan owned branded specific things, period.
Yeah.
This kid has something special, and like I said, Mogul Embassy continuing to be dominant by pulling out the win by doing a gory special into a flatliner, which was, oh my gosh.
Almost didn't work.
I know.
Almost didn't work. He barely pulled it off.
I was just like,
it's kind of a move that it seems like Sasha Banks wanted to do, or sorry, that Mercedes Moné wants to do on the Indies, but doesn't do it right now. She just can't get it all the way around there, so she does almost like a go to sleep with it. But full-on flatliner from a gory setup, it's ridiculous.
It is a thing of beauty. I gave this match 3.5 stars. I was like, gosh dang.
I gave it 4. It was that darn good to watch, and seeing everything else. The only downside was Prince Nana trying to kick AR Fox out of the ring and stepping over himself and falling down. There was also like some weird like shenanigans and not getting stuff. It was not well timed at the end. That's where it ended up coming to.
I love Prince Nana as a character.
We'll have a Chicago street fight between Athena and Kiera Hogan. This is going to be boring.
God, I'm just like, I love seeing Athena. I love any match Athena wrestles, but I love seeing Kiera get this push. I'm just like, Kiera deserves it. If you ever listen to any Biconics episode, I've been following Kiera since she teamed up with Tasha Steelz in Impact, and Fire and Flava was their tag team name. God, I enjoyed her in the Baddies before it wore out its welcome, but now I'm happy to see Kiera be on her own and to finally get the recognition as the single star she is. This street fight is going to be fucking brutal.
Yes, it is. But I'm waiting to see also. So if anyone knows, the way to get Mikey to die happy is stick him in a room with Bianca Belair and Kiera Hogan so they can have their own way to talk and just have an interaction, because those are his two favorite people in the entire world.
I really do. I love them so much. And you can hear my thoughts on the Monday Night Raw review, because no, you can't, because Bianca's on SmackDown. Damn it. Technically she is, but the split doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't. But Mikey, I have to ask, what would you give Ring of Honor episode 16 from the 15th of June 2023? What is your rating for the show overall?
I would give this a solid 3.5 out of 5, only because I feel like a majority of the matches were good to pretty decent. Obviously, the TV championship match to open up, and your main event at the end with that trios match was awesome. Obviously, Athena versus Trish was definitely a highlight. I think there was a lot of solid wrestling, but unfortunately, it did have some down parts. It feels so bad, but the Teal and Diamante match was objectively bad, and I'm not saying that the women are bad, but objectively, from chemistry to in-ring psychology, it was a mess. But I give it a solid, yeah, that's my rating, a solid 3 out of 5.
I'm also going a 3 out of 5 on this as well. Carried by the TV title match, carried by some interesting promo work and outside setup that kept me want to come back for more, with a couple of downers in the middle. Solid 3. Mikey, we've come to the end of a long-form version of this, and as we know, at the end of every ROH match, you still have to observe the Code of Honor. It's been a pleasure, sir.
It has also been a pleasure. And thank you to everyone who stuck around to watch this long form. We will be back, hopefully, next week to cover another exciting episode of Ring of Honor. But this has been the Biconics Review of Honor, otherwise known as Bro. But until next time, we'll catch y'all later. But until then, sayonara.